So these are the things like you literally can find out very quickly on the phone without actually even wasting your time showing your property if you have a serious person. The serious person is going to take those steps, and that's the person that you want to spend your time with, because that can give you the best odds of selling your house, either showing it to one person or just one day of showings.
You're listening to the Your House, Your Equity podcast, Home Sellers Edition, where we help homeowners like you to sell your house and save your equity.
My name is Vin.
And my name is Elle. And today, on this episode of the Your House, Your Equity podcast, we're going to be talking about how to screen buyers so that you can sell your house fast. So Vin, let's just pretend you have a house on the market right now, okay?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right. So let's say that a buyer contacts you from either Zillow or Facebook and they call you or they send you a direct message. What is the first thing that you would do with that lead? How would you handle it?
Well, the first things I want to know is, number one, did they drive by the property yet? And are they pre-qualified? So depending on their answers to that, depends on what I'm going to do. If they didn't drive by the property, I'm not really willing to show it, unless, of course, they're out of the area and they're coming to the area like just on a certain day and they don't live here and they're, familiar with the area. But most of the time I want the people to drive by, make sure they're okay with the neighborhood, make sure they like the outside of the house, because we already at that point would have our pictures online. So if they like what they see outside, they already like what they see inside. It's pretty much a done deal, except for one other step. One other thing I ask them is, are they pre-qualified? So if they say no, I let them know, let me know when you are pre-qualified and we can set an appointment. And if they are pre-qualified, I ask them for a pre-qualification letter. They can email it or text it to me. Once I know that they're pre-qualified and drove by, it helps increase my chances of selling the house and getting it under contract that day, as opposed to having to show it over and over and over.
So if a buyer is coming from out of the area and they're not currently living in a close enough proximity where they could just drive by the property, or if they kind of object to driving by the property, how would you handle that situation?
Well, I handle it on a case-by-case basis. So, for instance, if they're out of state or real far and they say, hey, we're only coming to the area this day, I'll make a judgment call depending on the other things that I asked them and how good I feel about the possibility of selling the house to them. If they don't send me a pre-qualification letter either, obviously I'm not going to set the appointment. That's actually really important. But if they drive by in addition, I really like both of them. But in certain circumstances, I would show the property if they're out of the area. But preferably, what I'd like to have is another appointment or two that same day if possible. So that way I'm not wasting my time just in case that person doesn't like the neighborhood when they drive by. And that's how I like to do it, because I like to try to sell or get the property where somebody wants it and wants to put it on the contract that day. And for most of the properties over the years, that's exactly what we did. Either we showed it to one person or we showed it just one day. And that's what we like to teach people in the course, to save their time, because it really does take quite a lot of your time to clean the house, to get ready, to rearrange your schedule every time like that. And it just is better to do it right the first time. And it saves so much frustration later, having to show your house 5, 6, 7, 8 times, because that wears people down. And a lot of times that's what most of the people in the industry do. They just show the houses over and over, and it wears everybody down. And the process doesn't really need to be like that.
Yeah, and I think from the perspective of either a real estate agent showing the house or maybe some sellers who don't know this, they might be thinking, oh, let me get as many people in here to see this as possible. This would be great to have, all these people calling, they want to come in. But in reality, you're wasting so much time and energy and effort on people who aren't even serious, let alone pre-qualified. I feel like that's not something that's talked about enough, and I feel like that's a really important point that you brought up.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that made me think of something else. I actually want to show the house as few of times as possible and to as fewer people as possible. I just want to make sure they're pre-qualified. So obviously, if they're pre-qualified, they drove by and have a pre-qualification letter, yeah, I'm going to try to show it to all those people. But I don't want to be wasting my time showing to every single person who wants to see the house, because that's just going to wear me down. Ideally, if I could show it to one person or one day to 3 or 4 people, that's really all I need, and that's really all you need. Because if you show it one day to 3 or 4 people, if your house has that kind of interest, not every house gets that kind of interest. A lot of times you can get multiple offers, and you might have a little bit of a bidding war. And that's really all you need.
Now, I do have a question for you. Let's just say, for example, a buyer says, no, I'm not pre-qualified, but I'm going to pay cash. How would you handle that situation?
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to handle that the same way. I'm still going to ask them for a letter from their bank stating they have the funds available to purchase the property at the full listing price. And not every time, most of the time people say they can buy in cash. A lot of times they're bluffing, but sometimes they are genuine. And then sometimes one of their rebuttals would be, oh, well, I don't want to give you my personal information. And basically you let them know, hey, listen, I'm not asking for your bank statements with your accounts and personal information. I just need a letter from your bank, and the most information it needs to have on there is your name, and the bank will have their contact information stating that you can purchase this property at the full listing price. And if they are serious, they can provide that letter. If they're not pre-qualified to buy your house, either from a bank or stating they have the funds to buy it in cash from a bank, how serious are they about buying your house? And if they're not willing to produce this letter, an email or text it to you, are you really willing to take your time to show your house, to clean your house, to reschedule your day, and not know if they can even buy your house? Whenever I didn't follow these steps that I'm telling you, and I said, oh, they didn't drive by, I'm going to show it anyway, or they're not pre-qualified, oh, they didn't send me a letter, but they said they're going to get it to me, or they said they're working on it, very, very rarely did it ever work out. And I always said to myself after, what did I do? I didn't even follow the steps that I knew worked. And one other thing I want to tell you. You have the house, the people want to buy your house. So you have the asset. Sometimes people might actually get mad. They might get mad being like, you won't show me your house unless I drive by first, or you won't show me your house unless I send you a pre-qualification letter. Just answer them politely. Say, look, we just have two simple things that we like people to do before we show a house, because we need to make sure that the people are serious and ready to buy it, because we don't have a lot of time and we don't want to, waste your time or our time. And we just have two simple steps. And number one is have people drive by. And number two, send a pre-qualification letter. So once you do those things, we'd be more than happy to show you the house. But we just do that. That way we could sort out the people who are serious versus not serious. Now, you don't have to say that last part to them, because that might make them mad. But some people actually do get mad. And the reason they get mad is you're actually calling their bluff. A lot of times, they're not really serious about buying your house, to the point that they won't even drive by it first, or they won't get a pre-qualification letter. And these are just not the type of people you want to be showing your house to. You got to understand something. You ever hear the term tire kickers or window shoppers? A lot of people out there are doing that when they go look at houses. They're really not ready to buy. They're not serious about buying, but they certainly want to see almost every house on the market. Don't waste your time, folks. Get it right. Pre-qualify your people, and you'll be a lot happier and have a lot more time.
Okay, so we've talked about asking the potential buyer whether or not they've driven by the property and insisting that they do so if possible. We've asked whether or not they're pre-qualified, and we've made it clear that we're going to need them to send either a pre-qualification letter from their bank or a letter from their bank stating that they have the funds available to purchase the property. On that first phone call, is there anything else that you should talk to that potential buyer about before you would move forward in scheduling an appointment?
Yeah, there actually is. So one other thing I like to ask is, in order for them to purchase the property, do they have to sell a house first? Some people, they say no because they don't have a house right now. They might be renting. They may have already sold their house. And so that's great. No problems there. But if they say yes, they have to sell their house first, that puts red flags up for me, because like I said, if it's not under contract right now, there is no reason for me to show them my house, because they can't buy it right now. Because I'll say to them something like this: okay, if your property's not under contract right now, can you buy this house without selling yours? That's how I'll continue by saying that. And a lot of times they'll say no, or they'll say yes. If they do say yes, then I will probably still show it. But I still ask for that pre-qualification letter, because the pre-qualification letter, if they were able to get that while their property is being sold, there is a possibility that they might be able to buy your property while their property hasn't sold yet. I've had that happen as well, that people were able to buy a new property without selling the first one first. But I don't want to get in a situation where they like the house that I have to sell, but they have to sell their house first and their house isn't under contract. So I want to avoid that at all costs, because that's not going to help me and it's not going to help them, because they might like the house I have to sell. They might want it. If I put it under contract and then all of a sudden their house doesn't sell, they can't buy my house, and think about all the potential buyers that I lost. So that's why I avoid that situation. Of course, it's better to be patient, and it's better to say to them, okay, I understand your situation. We need people to either be ready to buy the house or have their house under contract. So once your house is under contract, give me a call back, and if it's still available, I'd be happy to show it to you.
That's a really great way to handle it rather than kind of losing that lead or burning the bridge. It's much better to say, hey, can you give me a call when your house is under contract? I think that's a really great way to phrase it so that that person isn't, completely turned away. You still have that open line of communication, and that could always come through for you later. I mean, you never know. Their house may be under contract the following week, and then all of a sudden you're set. You're ready to go.
That's right.
But that is a really good point that if their house is not under contract and you put your house under contract with them, your closing is going to happen before theirs. So how are they going to get the money? If they even do. I mean, you don't know that their house is even going to sell. So that's a really great point.
Yeah, I'm glad you expanded on that, because I can't tell you how many times people have called me over the years that actually wanted to see a house before they sold their house. In other words, they couldn't buy the house I had to sell. They had to sell it first. And number one, it wasn't under contract. Number two, it wasn't even listed for sale either by themselves or with a real estate agent. So they were actually putting the cart before the horse. And I can't tell you how many times that happens, but for me, I avoid that situation just because the likelihood of that happening is very slim to none. It's better to get the people who are pre-qualified and ready to buy right now rather than waiting. You could always, like I said, end the conversation and say, hey, once your house is on the contract, give me a call. If it's available, be happy to show you. Thanks for understanding.
That's a really good way to actually kind of filter and be sure that a showing's worth your time, because I think that's another thing that is really important when we talk about screening buyers, is not just to make sure that you have the information you need and that you've put them through a little bit of a process to make sure that they're serious, but it also saves you time as the seller, as the one who's showing the home, to make sure that you're not wasting your time. I mean, that's annoying to constantly have to clean your house and get ready for a showing at the drop of a dime for someone who may not even be able to purchase your house if they're not pre-qualified.
So these are the things you literally can find out very quickly on the phone without actually even wasting your time showing your property if you have a serious person. The serious person is going to take those steps to drive by and get you the letter that you require. And that's the person that you want to spend your time with, because that can give you the best odds of selling your house with either showing it to one person or just one day of showings. And it's funny that you were saying about saving time, because I do value my time. I don't want to waste other people's time. I don't want people to waste my time. So over the years, a lot of times what we've done is we show the property one time and sell it just by showing it one time rather than having to show it over and over and over. And we teach this in the course how we do this. We also have a nice form that we fill out to make it easy for everybody who takes the course to get all information. Another thing that we teach is if you have enough interest in the house, we actually schedule it out maybe a week, and we build a little momentum up, schedule 3 or 4 appointments back to back to back to back. But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, because that's what we're actually going to be talking about next week, which is how to schedule showings in such a way to build sales pressure and motivate buyers to make higher and faster offers. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for next week's episode where we're going to be covering that. But as far as screening your buyers, the whole point is to save time as a seller, so you're not wasting time showing a house to people who aren't serious or can't afford the house in the first place. Once you start screening your buyers, you'll see firsthand how many of them just aren't even ready to buy a house or aren't even pre-qualified. They don't even have a solid budget to go off of, and they don't even know what price range to look in, and yet they want to see your house. You're just wasting your time if you don't follow a protocol of screening the buyers. I know sometimes people, they get excited, somebody wants to see their house, and that's what happens, but it just lets you down later when you find out that you wasted your time or they can't buy your house. So might as well just do the steps up front and get that right.
Now, Vin, this is a question I know we're going to get, so I'm just going to ask it now. If you're going through the work of qualifying your potential buyers, then how do open houses fit into the picture? I know you and I are on the same page with this, and we actually just spoke to an ex-real estate agent about this, and even they agreed that open houses are a total waste of time. So can you just briefly explain why we all seem to agree that open houses are a waste of time?
It's funny that you asked that, because I've tried open houses and it's, in my opinion, a complete waste of time, because the people just want to come in and see the house. They're not really serious. They haven't been through any pre-qualification steps. I'm not saying that nobody's ever sold a house with an open house, but after what we just talked about this episode and how important it is to screen your buyers to make sure they're serious and can afford to purchase your home, and then if you look at what happens with an open house where anybody can walk in and see it, it's not hard to imagine the vast majority of these people are not going to be able to buy your property. In fact, what we're talking about when we talked to that ex-real estate agent just recently, actually, they mentioned that statistically speaking, less than 1% of homes sell because of an open house. That's terrible odds, and that's why they're not in people's best interest as far as the home seller. You can imagine that literally anybody and everybody can come through, and especially if you're doing this as a for sale by owner, there's no way you could take the time to talk to everyone that shows up that day and try to work a deal. It's not an ideal situation. You're better off screening your buyers and spending your time with them one-on-one, showing them the house and trying to work a deal at the end of the showing if you feel they're ready to make an offer. Here's a deal also I want to let you know. I've actually spoke to an ex-top real estate agent, and they've actually even told me that open houses don't work, okay? So it totally validates how I feel because I've done it, and I won't do it anymore because of that exact thing. But what they do use open houses for, and this is a little bit concerning for you if you're a homeowner. So open houses are sometimes lead gathering tools that real estate agents use. They use open houses to gather leads that people come in to hopefully sell them another house, and not even yours. You have people coming in your house who aren't qualified, who are wasting everybody's time, your time, and one person may be benefiting from that. Sometimes a real estate agent may be gathering people's information and asking them questions to hopefully sell them a house in the future. You want your house sold. You're not concerned about selling other people's houses when you're going through the cleaning process and wasting your time in order to sell your house. So open houses, in my opinion, are a waste of time, and that's how I feel about that.
So we've talked about a lot of really great points here, Vin, and I just want to recap them real quick. We've learned that there are 3 questions you need to ask potential buyers before you schedule a showing. So first is, have you driven by the property? And this is important because they've probably already seen pictures of the inside of the house online, and now if they drive by and they like what they see on the outside and in the neighborhood, then there's a pretty good chance that they're willing to buy the house. And then the second question is to ask if they're pre-qualified, and also asking for proof, whether it's a pre-qualification letter for a loan or a letter from their bank stating that they have the funds available to purchase the property at the full listing price. And this is important because it will prove that they are able to purchase the house if they want it. And a follow-up question to that is if they need to sell their current house in order to purchase yours. If they do need to sell their house, it's in your best interest to make sure that it's already under contract to reduce the risk of you waiting around for their house to sell and you potentially missing out on other buyers in the meantime. And finally, we touched on why open houses are definitely not an ideal strategy to sell your home, because it opens the door literally for buyers who haven't gone through any screening process to just come in and waste your time. So really, you're much better off waiting for the right people and setting up a private showing to really feel them out and try to work out a deal. And for everyone listening, now that you know a few of our tips on how to screen your buyers, the next thing we're going to be talking about, as Vin teased earlier, is how to schedule showing appointments with these potential buyers in such a way that it builds intense pressure for them to make fast and high offers. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that episode coming up next. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. But if you would rather skip the wait and gain immediate access to all the tips and strategies we have to offer, then you need to check out the Your House, Your Equity course, and I'll put that link in the description. But before you buy the course, I want to let you know that if you want an opportunity to purchase the course at a significantly lower price, then check out our free webinar, How to Easily Sell Your House and Keep Your Equity. And at the end of the webinar, you will get a chance to buy the Your House, Your Equity course at a discounted price for a limited time. So make sure you head to the webinar first before you buy so you can take advantage of that limited time offer. So anyway, thanks again to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
My name is Vin.
And my name is Elle, and we're here to help you sell your house and
save your equity.
You're listening to the Your House, Your Equity podcast, Home Sellers Edition, where we help homeowners like you to sell your house and save your equity. As always, thanks for listening. And if you want more great content like this to help you sell your house quickly and easily, with or without a real estate agent, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share, and you can also follow us on social media using any of the links in the description. And of course, you can always visit us at yourhouseyourequity.com. Thanks for listening.
Your house, your equity, join the movement.